Welcome to the Security Cafe podcast.
Hello and welcome to another Security Cafe. Again, second one at CISO Day. We just had Dimitri and now we have the global CTO of Atos Security Services, Zeina Zakhour. Welcome to our podcast. And again, co-host Quint Ketting, storyteller, and my job to keep you guys a little bit on track. But let's kick it off with what you see in the market, what's happening, tech trends and all the stuff to get our listeners in your world.
Yeah, hello everyone. So we're living in exciting times today in cybersecurity. So many things are changing nowadays and so many emerging tech trends, actually. So to be also balanced, I would say we have a lot of issues. We have a cyber threat that is transforming drastically, but at the same time, now we have the leverage to face that, I do believe. It's just a question. Yeah, just a question of how do we get organized around this front.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that, and I think it's some of the cyber threats that are there. They're exposing things that are wrong for decades already, right? And now a lot of people are starting to panic about that. Yeah, and let's not do that, people, because I believe, and I'm very interested in your view on it. Some of that will actually, maybe not immediately, but probably very soon, will be big help to the defender community as well. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean, it's, as you've said, we always talk about technology debt. I think we need to talk about lack of security debt. Yeah. Because this is it. This is the lack of the basic hygiene today.
That's what it is.
Foundation, Security 101, I would say, or 110, but there is a foundation of security today that some organization have not implemented properly. And this is why I said this is where the cyber threats become a bit of a big risk and worrisome for the organization. But we have the means now to face that if, again, we get organized properly. And also, it's not, again, saying, okay, it's not a priority, we can do that next year or the year after.
Because the nerves are exposed now, basically, right? The skin is gone, the nerves will be exposed to people just to make it a bit more visible.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely it's that, but also it's just there are so many innovation happening, as we speak. So many, of course, AI, agentic AI. This is, I would say, this highlight of this year or the past 2 years. But innovation will not stop. And the question is, are we going to try to secure those new technologies with the same way that we used to do security? Or are we going to transform security to be also more agile, And as we accelerate innovation, are we going to try to use security in a human-led capacity, or are we going to adopt machine speed when we talk about security?
So what should we do then?
Well, I like what you're selling, because basically what I'm hearing is you're talking adaptive cyber resilience, right? And systemic resilience at the same time.
Yeah, it should be at the core.
Exactly.
It should be at the core. It's not an afterthought. It's not something that we come, okay, I've done my innovation, now how do I do security for that?
This is what I saw a lot. So again, my role is here as well, the storyteller. What I saw a lot in the past is where I did a lot of improvement programs with customers, large global customers. And what happens always is when after a while, those customers implemented a new basically phased approach, a 3-year security program, and then they left it. Yeah. So basically you build up your maturity to what is relevant at that very moment in time of you, but you don't maintain it. Yeah. So what happens then is your maturity and your defensibility and everything associated with that, it goes back down rapidly, actually. Yeah.
Fast.
Very fast, faster than most people think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always a question. This is why it goes back to Security 101, is that how do we find ourselves in this type of situation? It's just because at one time or another, we had to decide, I have to sacrifice something, I don't have enough budget, I don't have the human capabilities. There are so many things that say, okay, this is not a priority, I will address it later on, but later on is no longer an option.
I always say to people that they say, I cannot get the budget. And I said, well, you need to bring me to the guy who gives you the budget. You'll get the budget. I can assure you that. Yeah. because I'm gonna make people realize that you need to invest in certain things. Because back to your point, we just had a breakout session, right? And you basically highlighted something that you need to be in. And that's everything to do with your reputation, right? If you get let's not call it a stupid breach, yeah. But most breaches, they definitely
preventable. Let's call it like that. Yeah.
Most breaches could have been prevented, right?
By washing your hands.
Exactly. By keeping. We saw that in Corona, and it works the same in cyber. So then all of a sudden your reputation goes down the drain, and you have not invested. So if you can get the money, you haven't got the right question addressed to the people giving you the money. Because at the end of the day, it's about protecting your brand that you're working for.
And it's about credibility.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Because I think, and this is also a good news, is that the citizen, the customer, the end user, whatever you want to call them for organization, are becoming more tech savvy and specifically security savvy. At least from a privacy perspective, I want to know what you're doing with my data. I want to make sure that you're someone I can trust with my data. Mm-hmm. So I think this helps also, because organizations then understand that for me to build trust and maintain trust with my customer, I need to have a sound security program and security strategy. And to your question before, okay, how do we do that? Mm-hmm. I think the basic element is to start and understand what are the risks, the business risks that fall on my organization, because I will never secure a water treatment company the same way I'm going to secure a healthcare company, the same way I'm going to secure retail or banking. You know, every organization has a different ecosystem.
DNA. Well, it's not DNA, but it's about the purpose of your existence. And to me, it starts there. We always say within our approach, we say prepare, respond, adopt. And first step in prepare is understanding who you are, as an organization. I've said this many times. He will shout at me if I say that one more time, I believe. But you're absolutely right, spot on that.
Yeah, and I think once we have a clear visibility of what is my risk, and again, it's not something that I do in an Excel spreadsheet and that I update once per year.
Exactly, yes.
You know, and I need to understand my risk, and I need to understand all this ecosystem, because the world is changing fast, and there will be certain signals that will come that will mean my risk has changed. Yep. Some risk that were listed as priority, low priority or medium priority immediately will become a high priority. So again, takes us to agility and to adapt in the PRA. And we need to be able to have a clear risk assessment, and then being able to update it regularly on the front.
Funny anecdote on that. We were in a session last Monday with a former CISO of a very large manufacturing company. And they basically were talking about, someone said in the room, we should only prioritize the high severity CVEs.
Exactly.
And I said, but that's not the right approach, because the low severity can become a very high severity before you know it, if somebody does something with it.
And then
it
you
can
see
go
it today.
super quick,
Yeah, and
that
today
really
you can
quick.
actually chain multiple low-level vulnerability
into exploitable,
into an exploitable.
Because the old systems, they're all built like, is it exploitable? No, not at the moment. Is it easy to exploit? No, not at the moment. But with all these new machine LLMs that we have, it will become very fast exploitable and not so difficult, even though it's really complex.
Including your mitigation factors, right? So you mitigate something by switching it off from talking to the internet. But again, what you just said, Zeina, if you have an estate with different smaller vulnerabilities, they can be chained, and that thing that you've mitigated, and in your Excel sheet in risk, you have mitigated the risk. So for now, it's fine. It's not fine, because via those other smaller vulnerabilities, it's still reachable, right? And that's a big risk. But if you say we need to switch, we need to go faster, and with Dimitri, we said you need to look at your processes. You cannot keep the same processes you have now to deal with the problems we get, right? But in your view, Zeina, how should an organization then tackle the change in velocity, the change in process that they need to make?
This is interesting because, I was talking with a customer and they have been implementing AI for cyber throughout their security program, which is great. They have a good maturity. They are not implementing AI for cyber only on detection and response. It's good, but they are also, for instance, identity. It's somewhere where today identity is the number one attack vector.
It has been for more than a decade.
Yeah, but how are we when we know that this is the number one attack vector? I'm doing periodic certification, manual provisioning. It's not normal. So this is where organizations that are mature are doing those type of changes. But when I was talking with them and then we started discussing, and I said, okay, and how about your process? Because this is the tool. But if the process is still human-led, then in the end time, you are as fast as your
the
process.
people can.
That guy is going to press the button.
Paper-based, piling up all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is also an important thing that organizations should think about. And again, I talk about AI, and I know that sometimes people get a bit overexcited, and then I say AI everywhere. God, no. AI is not everywhere, specifically in cyber. Because again, we don't have unlimited budget. Neither. We need to understand from our risk what I understood from my environment. This is where I need to implement. And there are selection signals today that can help to understand where there's friction, where I need speed, where the quality of the data is important. Actually, do I have the data? Because if I don't have the right data, I cannot use AI really properly. No. So a lot of things I think that we need to take into consideration once we're going to start, implementing, transforming this vision, this analysis of risk mitigation into actual programs and implementation. And I think to your point, because you said at the moment, at one time, and this is it, is that at the moment is changing all the time.
It is changing. So I would say even a year ago, I got often the question, Quint, what do you see happening in the future? And I could always tell more or less what was coming. Today I have more difficulties with it. Of course, I can hallucinate a little bit on it, but it is more difficult to predict what's coming because of these major developments. And I give you another example, which is funny. How many times do you speak to people that said, I don't use AI? Yeah. Do you use Google? Yes. It will answer to you, right? Yeah, but it's a search engine. No, that's AI. Or even older, my mom, I'm not using AI. You drive a car, right? Yes. But there's no computer in it. I said, no. But what happens if you drive towards a traffic light? Yeah, it's red and then it turns green. So it's AI. It's very old AI, but it is still AI. It's an algorithm that was programmed to do. It's, by the way, one of the best working examples.
It's a good
that never fails.
Yeah.
Unless it's hacked.
Exactly. No, I think it goes back again to this approach of what is really AI today. And for organizations, they believe is that if I build an AI platform and I created AI algorithms and model, then I have AI. But when they go and see all those supply chain, how many of the software in your supply chain are using AI today?
Yeah.
And do we have an answer for that?
Do you know it? Yeah.
Because if we don't have an answer, we are exposed as well. This is a risk that we are not actually controlling.
Yeah.
So I would say we discussed we shouldn't go too deep into AI, and yet here we are. So let's do it anyway.
Why not?
I like the topic a lot. Now we have AI protection in place, right? In a way that if you put something in it, so prompt injection and things like that. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't I think they haven't considered or very much underestimated. We saw a presentation from Gartner today where it was top right as well as one of the major risks, right? Yet I would say at the moment, the community, they're exploding on things like new models like Mythos and OpenAI 5.5 new models that can exploit things. But that prompt injection, that's basically your thing that you already have in your house, yeah? And you probably haven't protecting anything against that. Zeina, I like to have your view on that as well.
Yeah, it's not only monitoring the prompt injection. I think we need to be able to monitor the meta prompt as well. We need to have a clear control of what's happening in my environment. So I need to put the actual guardrails. And today, when we implement AI again, go back to this assessment. And this is a bit of a problem, is that our teams are more eager, okay, I want to implement AI. What are the security controls that I want to put here? I mean, it's not one solution fits all.
No.
What is your AI use case doing? What type of data are you accessing? This is why the risk assessment is important. So there's always this, the mindset that I'm going to go a step further directly. And the idea is let's understand what you're doing. And then when we come to how do I protect from prompt injection, how even do I actually protect from runtime risk? Because as soon as we're putting agent, the agent has a goal. But we've seen this goal drift for agents. And this is a key concern. And
the agent runs on certain privileges as well, right? Which makes it again
typically user privileges.
It's like the machine user in your environment, and we are only looking in our current frameworks at the human people things.
Yeah, I think, but also when you don't have one type of agent, we need to think about that. Today we have AI agents that are assistive, some that are semi-autonomous, some that are fully autonomous. We don't have a lot today in practice, that are fully autonomous, not implemented. But you have those type of agents, and each agent have a different role, and each agent would also bring a different risk on the table. But when we say, okay, we need to manage, we go to the identity. Okay, I need to have an identity for each agent. But what is an identity of an agent? Today, an agent has a goal, has an intent.
Yeah.
And they actually can make decision, they can act, they can call tools. All of those, for me, is part of the permissions that you're giving those agents. And and if you really are on the autonomous front, you're giving them some autonomy to do those type of calls. So how do you put this control layer? It exists, but you need to think about it and put this control layer so that at runtime you have this behavioral control on the agents in order to be able to identify whether I have a drift, whether I have an issue, and whether really I need to activate my kill switch or not. And even if I have a kill switch. By the way,
That's another one.
But I like what you said, because that's what I've been preaching to a lot of people as well. Like, okay, now we get quantum. And again, we need to talk about quantum as well. We have AI technology coming towards, so we've got the agents, agentic. It's the protecting all that. It always comes down, as you said, to a risk analysis, right? So to me, and that's what I've been saying for quite a long time. Yeah, we need to do sovereignty, autonomy, and things. Yeah, it's part of your risk. You need to understand. You do the exercise. What does it mean for my organization? Yeah. Do I actually see this as a risk or not? Do I accept the risk? You're going to have to do the exercise, right? As you have to do with any new thing you want to bring into your organization or employee or whatever it is that you want to bring in.
But that's talking
I
about
like
what you bring in.
Yeah.
Go always back to the basics, because to me it is as simple as that. We have these emerging technologies, but we need to think the basic principles.
We need to understand them first.
Exactly, understand it
big
very well.
Today that we go too fast.
Yeah,
we don't really understand all the interconnections inside, those type of technology. But to your point on sovereignty, it's very interesting because there is no one type of sovereignty, and it's going to depend about the context of an organization. And you need to do a sovereign risk assessment. This is a particular risk assessment, not the security risk assessment that we do. You need to actually check other key element on this front. And when we've done this, what level of sovereignty do you want? But let's be factual today. If I want to do sovereign AI, to which level of sovereignty can I go? GPU? No.
I think that the models are probably not mature enough today. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert.
But from a model perspective, we still have some options.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to drop names certain because I cannot name everyone, and we have really very good European initiative on the model.
Like
front.
Mistral.
Yeah, he insisted on
Sorry.
dropping. And now I have to drop all the other 5-6 names.
No, you don't. No, just blame him. That's fine.
I will cut it out.
Yeah, no, but it's. I think it's important because from a model perspective, there is something available. From an AI middleware, not really. Cloud, maybe. GPU, as I've said, no. So you have, if you look at the chain from end to end, so this is what really do we mean by sovereignty?
Yeah.
And how far do I want to go?
I think that's another long conversation of another time.
Oh, yes, you wanted to talk about quantum as well.
But
so here we go.
Here we go on sovereignty, right? So again, look at what is available, as you said, righteously so, compared to what we've always been using. Yeah, that there's like, it feels like a light year from a usability perspective. Yeah, to get it there where it needs to be. Right. All the things behind it is probably as good as, or maybe even better. I will not judge. I will not comment on that. But it's about the usability, yeah, the ease of use, yeah, and that's why what you also said you need is what does it mean to me, sovereignty? And I think a lot of people, they always confuse sovereignty with autonomy, yeah, and they don't understand fully that those are really different things, because as an organization, yeah, you want to know who you are dependable on, yeah, and go to that exercise, because that, I believe, is more important, yeah, than the sovereignty itself. It is part of the same conversation, but you need to understand: am I too independent on that particular party or not? Agree?
Yes, and I think it's, again, it goes to this approach to say, is sovereignty just data residency? Then this is the least difficult
That's the
level
easiest
of
one.
sovereignty.
Let's not go there.
But sovereignty is so much more, because it's sovereignty of where is my data, who can operate on my data, what is the legal framework
and indeed the legal parts. Yeah,
and then
what am I allowed in my country, or because of what profession I'm in? If you are in a heavily regulated government environment, it's very different.
Yeah, but it's more than that, because here I gave you the example only on the data front. Data residency, who operate on the data, the legal framework. But how about the technological sovereignty? And again, it's not necessary for everyone. But again, what technology am I using? How do I know who developed this technology? Where was it developed?
Yeah.
So all of those are elements that it's going to depend. So we've seen on the 5G, at the European level, we said certain type of technology we cannot implement in our infrastructure because it's a sovereignty concern and security concern, by the way, on this front. So all of those are, again, elements that an organization should have to define. And at the same time, the organization should be ready to change the cursor about what today sovereignty means to me with respect to what tomorrow it's going to mean to me. 8 years ago, when I used to talk sovereignty, very few organizations.
No, I agree. I had the same thing, especially around before Brexit, right? There was a lot of discussion about it as well. And it's not happening anymore. And now it's due to the current geopolitical climate. It's going back to who's my friend today and are they still my friend? And then again, that's why I believe it's sovereignty and autonomy is really important to understand those two differences, because the geopolitical thing, that will evolve or develop or go away like 6 years ago, as you said, yeah? But then, what I also see a lot of customers, and sorry, I know you're French, but I'm going to use the example anyway. It's not against the French. What I see now a lot in Europe, French is probably technology, the most far in the technology development areas in Europe, together with the Germans. And what you now see is, okay, we're going to basically put everything in a German cloud or a French cloud. And then I think like, okay, but what if some of the leaders that we always considered our friends, are all of a sudden a new French minister goes and start doing weird things? Yeah, let's not go too deep in it. Yeah. How are we looking at that then?
I think it and that's the same like 8 years ago. That feels safe enough. Because and this one,
because
I think it's closer.
It's my friend, but I always thought the US was my friend as well.
Exactly.
But I think also, we're not going to talk about politics.
No, we are not.
But there's something that's important for me is that Europe, we really need to protect.
We need to be able to, in Dutch we say, pull up our own hoses, our own pants. Yeah,
but which it's an identity.
Exactly.
I mean, it's very important. I think when I think about also my daughter, and I think for the next generation, we've built something that's very good. Maybe we've done errors throughout this journey, but we have now, I think, this identity. The identity of we are European, we are here, we're stronger together. I think this is what we need to protect.
Yeah.
And this is why today I don't believe we can answer the sovereignty need or this need for autonomy by actually going at a country level. This is not how we're going to solve.
agree.
We're going to do it where we're going to do it at the European level, hand in hand, all of us. And this is why, however, because indeed everything could change, we need to make sure that this identity, this strong link and interconnection that we have at the European level is something that we can maintain and protect, because it takes just a bit of certain, I would say, complacency, I would say, for this to disappear. But it's important for us, because you were talking about post-quantum. There is no way for us to be able to face the post-quantum risk if we're going to address it as a country level.
No, I fully agree. I think we are stronger together. Let's because I'm hearing the bell, right? We always have a bell that says it's the final round. Yeah, no drinks will be served anymore. We're not in a cafe.
Go downstairs in the CISO Day.
We're in the CISO Day event. So to close, I think to summarize, we need to work better together still. I think it's going better, but we, especially within Europe, but also within the countries. I gave a talk about that a few months ago. There's still too often that we say we work together and we really aren't doing that. Yeah, but what I meant to say is, if we share more, without the competitive intelligence stuff, of course, we shouldn't do that. There's rules for that as well. But on certain security elements, we need to share more, not just intelligence and stuff like that.
Yeah, we need to share more. We need to have an ecosystem.
Exactly, where it's safe to do that.
This bubble of trust, where we know that we can share all together. But I think also we need to encourage innovation at the European level. We need to invest more. We need to make sure that also us organization, will trust those startups and will support them, will also implement those startups, those new technologies and innovative security technology that are coming from the European brains, and also try to implement that. This is how we encourage also the development of this local market, whether it's about securing AI, preparing for post-quantum, or from a sovereign perspective. And it's easier said than done, because it really requires, I would say, taking risk sometimes, but I think if this is how we will be able to create this sustainability and make sure that we're ready for those emerging threats that will come along the road. We need to continuously innovate in cyber.
Innovate, be more agile, right? And look at the guardrails and how we do that in terms of process and technologies,
Well, thanks, Zeina, for joining us today.
Indeed.
Thank you for
Maybe the last thing before you forget, Quint, we always do a thing to watch or a book to read from our guest. So any hints, tips for our audience? What should they watch on whatever Netflix it might be, just a nice movie, or a book to read?
So I'm going to recommend two things.
Cool.
For cyber, go check the Atos blog, Cyber Shield. We have our threat research center team. They are really, they are discovering actually regularly some new campaign, new variant of malware. They're sharing extremely interesting content on this one. So definitely, I will advise to check this one. And then in terms of book, it has nothing to do, I would say, with cybersecurity, but The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. This is a very powerful book. I like it a lot, so I would recommend it.
All right, cool.
Okay,
we'll put it in the show notes, And I won't ask you again,
No,
because I just did for Dimitri. So thanks, Quint, for joining. Thanks, Zeina.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.